of band is this?
Everybody poops sometimes.
Give us the smolder.
Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I'm in, Savannah said. Good Lord, Gemma.
When a man and a woman, in this case, really, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish. This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian. As much as I love fucking you, sweetness, we stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy. Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help. Biatch. You are the spark of light and the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song.
Good evening. Hello. Good evening to one and all. So great to see you. Happy Sunday. Happy 3 days before Christmas. Are you ready? I am not. But that's okay. It's fine. It'll all work out. Ash, thank you for the lurk there. I appreciate it. User Death, good evening. How are you? Gosh, sorry. I feel like I've got this frog. I hate that. Better sip some tea, although it's probably frickin' hot, so might need to let it cool off for a second. Oh boy, what a weekend. I took the kiddo to see Sonic 3 this afternoon / this morning. It was actually pretty good. I wasn't sure because the second movie was kind of meh, but the third one was really good. Tacky, hello. And Aranel's here, still shopping and wrapping to do on my list. Oh boy. Well, I wish you much success. Yay for movies? I know. Okay, Tacky, you go get that drink. You grab it. Not too firmly, but just enough. This tea would soothe your soul. Absolutely fantastic. Did you see what I bought? I posted it in Stumpty's Discord. No, I did not. But hold on. Where'd you put it? I can, in fact, drink maple syrup now. Oh, and the picture's up. That would make sense. Let's see. Scrolling. I'm scrolling. I have a lot of scrolling to do. I have not looked at this channel in a while. Oh, there it is. Wow. Look at that. Jeez. Wow. Good for you. Nice. You're dreaming of a white Christmas? We won't get a white Christmas. In fact, it's going to be in the 40s here around Christmas. Yeah, I bet you're excited. That's fantastic. And hi, Star Mama's Mama. How are you? It's good to see everybody. I'm excited to read tonight. Well, I'm excited to read every time. Let's be honest. But since I'm not streaming the day before Christmas, also known as Christmas Eve, I decided. Let's get those out of the way. I decided tonight, after we're done reading Song for Someone, I will do a live reading of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Normally, I record it and then just play a video. But last year when I did that, for some reason, the sound never actually played through. So that was awkward. So I figured this time I'll just do a live reading. And then that way, no issues. Hopefully. Hi, Kay. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. Welcome to Sunday, the day before Monday. I still have to work tomorrow. The kid will be off school, or is off school, of course. But my wife's having a whole bunch of people to come over. She's having some, like a little work get together. Like they're working, but they're hanging out at the same time. So upstairs is going to be a bit of a nut house. So I'm going to stay downstairs where it's nice and calm. I'm sticking around for that. I memorized that story. Oh, thanks, Aranel. Then you'll know if I mess up. Okay, you have to work too? Yeah, it's a drag. I don't expect to be really doing anything crazy at all, but I still gotta be, around. Accessible. Ash says, I work tonight and tomorrow night, then have the next 2 nights off. Okay, so because you are an overnight worker, essentially, so I see. So you'll have Christmas Eve off night and Christmas Day night off. Got it. You'll be listening? I bet you will. Speaking of listening, my left ear is still messed up. But I now have an appointment to go see the ENT doctor, I think on the 30th. It's either the 30th or 31st, whichever. And then hopefully they can correct my left ear, because it's really weird not being able to hear out of one ear correctly. It throws you off immensely. So, anyway, this is your lovely puzzle. It helps if I join it first. This is your puzzle for the evening. I like this puzzle because in the center they remind me of strawberry jam biscuits that I would get in the UK, just in, different shapes. When you get them in the package from the store, they're called Jammy Dodges. And they're pretty good. So I thought this was a nice little Christmas puzzle to do. Stepmom's mom said, I finished all my Christmas baking and candy making today. I will taste test. Now, tomorrow will be cleaning and food prep for Christmas Eve day with the sun and the stunts. Fantastic. We had some friends come over yesterday. It was mom and her kiddos. They came over and hung out, and we fed them, and the kids played and all of us grown-ups got to sit down and talk and chill out for a bit. So that was kind of nice. So yeah, it's just been a hopping weekend. Hopping. Oh, and we're gonna go see the Mufasa movie on Christmas Eve as well. So that'll be fun. Gray's here. Hi, Gray. How are you? Let's get some shout outs going here. We don't really celebrate anymore, so no baking or cooking for me. Just the usual cleaning and taking care of. Yeah, I lost it. Taking care of him and maybe some writing.
Oh
I get that,
was
Kay.
so evil.
Oh, I remember
This.
you playing this game, Arinel.
Come this way.
I remember you playing that game.
We out here.
We out here.
My worst word that I always get asked to say is "ol."
All. What? What word was that? I don't know. It's your clip. Don't ask me. Ash, that was your clip. It's very random. You don't even know what game it was? It looked like some sort of Survivor game that I could tell anyway. It was only a quick moment, but... Oh, before I forget, down below in my About section, you'll see something about a documentary. One of the voiceovers that I did a little while ago has been released now on YouTube. Gosh, I apologize. I watched the video today. There's one little oops that they did in the video at the very, very beginning about the date. But other than that, the video itself is, I think it's really cool. So yeah, feel free to check that out if you want, if you like documentary style videos. And KD's here. Hello, KD. How are you? Pleasure to see you. Hydrate, I will. I just can't seem to get this frog out of my throat. For those of you that are not aware, KD is the author of Song for Someone, the book we are reading right now. And she has many more books that you should check out. And to help understand why you should do that, we should just start reading the book. I think that would be a great idea. You're great. I am pleased to hear it. All right. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, please sit back, relax, get yourself a drink and a snack or whatever it is you need to be comfy and cozy. And I will read to you. We're starting out tonight on chapter 28, an Irene Adler chapter. In the printed copy we have, it's page 175. Feel free to do exclamation point someone if you wish to see the author's page, and there you will see this book and many others, as I said before. Without further ado, here we go. The sounds of hustle and bustle echoed around the courtyard as the domestic servants prepared for the wedding anniversary festivities. They scrubbed and dried the outside patio area on Violetta's instructions in case anyone felt inclined to dance later that evening. The benches were covered with freshly laundered white linen tablecloths, each with a bouquet of fresh flowers from the gardens. Ava and Clarissa decorated the courtyard with paper garlands, flowers, and balloons. Gabriella, Antonia, and Violetta were in the kitchen, busy preparing the food. Ava arrived at the barn just after breakfast with a basket of flowers and a parcel. I embraced Ava, kissing her on the cheek. My goodness, such beautiful flowers. I'm sure Violetta will love them. No, Neen. Ava shook her head. Mama already has her flowers. These blooms are for you. They must be from Mr. Holmes. She smiled at me curiously. What's it like being married? I imagine it must be wonderful to be with someone you genuinely love. I hesitated, taken aback by Ava's question. Well, it has its moments. What's brought this on, young lady? Do you have a secret admirer? Ava blushed before nodding. Yes, it's Javier. I think I love him. What makes you say that? Because every time I see or speak to him, I get butterflies in my tummy, and I cannot wait to see him again. Ah, then I think you may well be in love, and there's nothing wrong with that. Javier is a fine young man. He'd be lucky to have you. Do you still get butterflies when you see Mr. Holmes? My feelings for my husband are unlike anything I have ever experienced before. And yes, I did get butterflies when I first saw him. But that was before I even knew him. Ava hugged me before running back to the farmhouse in a state of girlish excitement. I placed the parcel in my bedroom drawer, then examined the flowers. I couldn't help thinking that Ava had wildly exaggerated Holmes's romantic tendencies. It seemed odd that he would send me flowers. I opened the card, and the ebony hairclip I thought I had lost fell into the palm of my hand. My eyes scanned the card, which read, Until next time, JX. I was taken aback, realizing with a start that they must be from Javier. But if that was the case, why on earth would he have my hairclip? Later that evening, Ava and I peered out of her bedroom window to find a gathering of guests had piled into the courtyard. The Anka family were amongst them. Several farm laborers, along with the regulars and their families, had also arrived. Welcome back, stunt mama. I feel like gaming for platinum when he pushes his button, he's like, we love you, purple. Stunt mama. Anyway, carrying on. The domestic servants had done splendidly, laying outside benches with a feast of lampredotto Tuscan pork, provolone cheese, spiced olives, bowls of fresh fruit, saffron cake, honey, and sweetbread. Drinks flowed, beer, vinsanto, and homemade lemonade for the children. Homemade lemonade. Champagne was provided for the toast, with the compliments of Sherlock Holmes. The sun was beginning to set in the courtyard, and the gardens illuminated with oil lamps and taper candles created a welcoming, cozy atmosphere. Giovanni played his banjo, accompanied by Javier on his harpsichord. Meanwhile, upstairs in the bedroom, I helped Ava change into her evening dress of white nun's veiling. The dress was a perfect fit, a lovely contrast to her beautiful olive skin. Next, I sugar-curled Ava's hair with curling tongs. She was amazed how I managed to make the curls so tight and small. She admired them in the pier glass. I showed Ava the small pair of bespoke curling tongs. I bought them when I lived in New York. They cost a week's salary. If a lady can have one indulgence, then, in my opinion, it should be her hair. Her crowning glory. I wish I could afford a pair, said Ava. A mournful expression appeared on her face. I smiled. Ava, a determined woman will find a way to get whatever she wants. I tied a small bouquet of white roses into Ava's hair. They perfectly matched her dress. Next, I applied Ava's makeup before presenting her with an opera mask and a pair of white evening gloves. I pinned a brooch onto her dress as a finishing touch, a mosaic antique Italian fan in blue and gold, engraved on the back. From La Scala Irene Adler, 1884 to 1887. Ava stared at the brooch in awe. It's beautiful, Nin. Thank you so much for allowing me to borrow it. I promise to take good care of it. I kissed the top of Ava's head. You are very welcome, my dear. I only bring it out on special occasions, and this is your night, your time to shine. I don't think it's precious, but what it does have is great sentimental value. And at least it's Italian. Thank you, said Ava. This is such a strange feeling, terrifying yet exciting at the same time. I must admit I do feel a little apprehensive having to follow you, Nin. You are so talented. I'm worried about what people will think of me. I took Ava by the shoulder. Ava, listen to me. Sometimes feeling scared is good because it lights a fire within you. Everyone has the right to criticize you. It is your right to prove them wrong. I pointed Ava toward the pier glass. Ava, my darling, you are a chrysalis just bursting with potential. You'll make quite the impression. Your mama and papa will be so proud. Downstairs, the guests had assembled. Many sat outside on the wooden benches, chatting indiscriminately, partaking of the lovely food and drinks. 2 days earlier, Ludo had asked if I would consider playing at the anniversary supper and dedicate a song to Violetta. I happily agreed. Holmes raised his concerns with me when we discussed the matter over luncheon the following day. He remarked that accompanying Ava on the piano was one thing, but singing in public was quite another. I shrugged and told him I felt unable to let the family down, given the kindness they had bestowed upon us. In the end, Holmes conceded, albeit reluctantly. Holmes had returned from the village earlier than expected the following day to find me alone at breakfast. He sat beside me to show me a telegram that had arrived that morning. The wire was from his brother Mycroft, relaying the news that Palmer's lifeless body had been fished out of the Thames by the dredgermen. Thank God, I cried out in relief. Does this mean it's safe to go home now? It would appear so, said Holmes, although my brother has asked that we stay on a few more days until the Metropolitan Police establish who is responsible for Palmer's death. I nodded. Then tonight at least we can celebrate with Ludo and Violetta. I can sing for them without worry. Yes, of course. Why not? Holmes offered me a smile. I need to go out again. I have a few matters to attend to, but I will be back in time for the festivities. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, for everything, I said, tears in my eyes. I stepped forward and kissed him lightly on the cheek, but I resisted the urge to throw my arms around his neck and hug him. I had mixed feelings about Palmer's demise. I was, of course, relieved that he could no longer pursue us. But the thought of never seeing Holmes again hit me like a sledgehammer. Imagining my world without him in it was an impossible concept. I walked into the courtyard attired in a midnight blue, sleeveless evening gown, my hair concealed in an elaborate I'm going to mess this word up again. I always do. Chignon. I know it's like a ribbon or a bow or something. I always mess it up. I can never remember how to say it. Anyway, very extravagant hair. Just, woo, lovely stuff. The murmurs and indistinct chatter began to fade. Giovanni and Javier Anca looked up at my entrance, laying their instruments down as I approached the piano. As I addressed the audience, there was a hush in the courtyard, an air of expectation. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been asked to play a medley of romantic music for you this evening. Of course, being classically trained, I have a vast repertoire to choose from. I have selected some of my favorites. I hope they are yours too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely hope my husband and I will be as happy as Ludo and Violetta when we have been married for 20 years. The audience laughed. I overheard Gabriella mutter to her husband, 20 years? They'll be lucky if they last 20 weeks. Gabriella Anca glanced at Holmes. He had the grace to blush. I sat down at the piano and began to play Beethoven's Für Elise. You could hear a pin drop in the courtyard as I reached the last chord of the song before effortlessly moving on to Liszt's Liebestraum in A-flat major, to the delight of the thrilled audience. They gasped in awe at the fast cadenza, requiring dexterous fingerwork. At the end of the piece, I stood. And I feel like I missed a page. Yep, I literally skipped over 2 pages. It's a bun at the nape of the neck. Okay, but how do you pronounce it? Because I always mess it up. It's written Chignon. Yes, I skipped that many pages. I was just blown away by her performance. I nailed it. I stood up for a moment and smiled at the audience before sitting back down again to play Stephen Foster's Beautiful Dreamer, singing the beautiful melody. We call that speed reading. I believe it's Chignon. That's right, Chignon. 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 Got me a nice chignon in the back. KD's like, oh my god. At the end of my performance, the audience burst into delighted applause. Well, that was fun, I said. The songs I sing in my professional routine can often be a little static. This is a significant change. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the highlight of the evening. It is my great privilege to introduce our mystery performer who will be dedicating a song for someone extraordinary. I understand this particular song is very close to Violetta's heart. She even insisted on playing it at her wedding. You're doing great. Oh, thank you. You flatter me, my dear. The lights dimmed and a young lady, her identity concealed in an opera mask, glided into the courtyard. She stood beside me at the piano, the audience gasping in admiration. I began to play the opening chords of Drink to Me Only with Thine Eyes. I was shocked to hear the distinct sound of a violin. I swung around on my seat to discover Holmes, who was seated close by, accompanying me. I composed myself and took a deep breath. I smiled at the audience and shrugged nonchalantly. as though Sherlock Holmes and I played a duet every day of our lives. Ava began to sing in all the power and beauty of youth. A hush fell in the courtyard as the song ended, and the audience erupted into applause. Ava removed her mask, laughing nervously. The audience and her parents stared at her in stunned disbelief. Violetta and Ludo were astounded to discover their beloved daughter had sung to them. Ava ran over to her parents and embraced them. Her beautiful eyes shone like stars. I glanced over to Holmes and whispered, "Thank you." He nodded. Looking up from the piano, I found Violetta beaming at me. "Thank you so much, Nin, for all you have done for Ava. My God, I was unaware my daughter could sing like an angel. I knew she could carry a tune. I've heard her singing in the bath, but nothing like this. I've never heard a finer rendition of that song." "You've done very well, Ava. I'm so proud of you," I said. "You are such an inspirational teacher," Ava replied. "Thank you for everything. You have made Mama so happy." "My pleasure," I said, beaming at the girl. Ava found herself surrounded by friends congratulating her on her performance. I took the opportunity to speak to Violetta and Ludo confidentially. "Ava has a shining, natural talent," I said. "However, she will need extensive tuition and development to reach her full potential. Nevertheless, I would like to put her name forward for an audition at La Scala in September. Despite her tender years, I'm convinced your daughter has what it takes to become part of the theatre chorus. I am more than happy to write a letter of recommendation. However, for this endorsement to be effective, Ava must first showcase a high level of talent at the audition, which she has, of course, in abundance. When I leave here, Ava must continue to practice. I would like to arrange this as a parting gift. Javier informed me there is such a teacher in the village, a retired soprano. And no, Violetta, I will not take no for an answer. If you and Ludo agree, I would like to arrange for my good friend Sophia to act as Ava's mentor. I have many friends at La Scala. They will keep a watchful eye on your daughter. I don't want either of you to worry regarding the financial aspects. Should Ava be accepted, she would automatically qualify for a bursary to assist with her studies and living expenses." Ludo stared at me pensively, stroking his chin. "Does such a fund exist for our Stellina?" he asked. "Yes, of course." I crossed my fingers behind my back, determined that Ava would not lose her place due to financial reasons. I was more than happy to help. Ludo and Violetta would feel uncomfortable accepting charity. They were proud people, but a bursary was a bursary, irrespective of who was funding it. "Thank you so much," said Violetta, "for what you did for Ava. The generosity of your spirit and time is overwhelming. Ludo and I already know the answer to your question, but we need a little more time to mull it over. We will miss her dreadfully if she should be accepted by La Scala." "I know you will," I said. "But you know, Milan is only a train ride away, so Ava would be able to come home on the weekends and the holidays. Can you imagine her first professional appearance at La Scala? It will be amazing, and you will love Milan, Violetta." Sounds like it's going to cost me a pretty penny." Oh wait, that was Ludo. Sounds like it's going to cost me a pretty penny," said Ludo, shaking his head. "Thank God, we have Gemma. I mean, good crops this year. Gemma, that's the end of the chapter, by the way. Gemma. Gemma. For the last 3 streams, you have done this. Not going to listen, so no need to say anything. Oh, you have to listen. I do not deserve you. Your generosity seems to know no bounds, apparently. Merry Christmas to you too. And now we spin. We spin. My goodness, more curls. Apparently that's all we're going to do. I will do those curls today, tonight. You almost made me cry, Gemma. We don't need to do that right now. We have much more to read. Please go check out Gemma. She doesn't stream a ton, but she's a very calm and relaxing streamer that is down to earth. And as you can tell, someone that is genuine. Very caring person. So I would appreciate it if you could hit the heart, give her a follow, and if you happen to be able to drop in on a stream, please do. Gemma, you are now cut off, by the way. Just wanted you to know that. I've already spoke to the bank and PayPal and all the other ones. And they're like, oh yeah, Gemma? Yeah, we know her. No problem. Disconnected. Should I do the curls now, or do you want me to wait till later? This is for everybody in chat. I should have prefaced that. Should I read or curl? You tell me. Gemma says more reading. Very good. Because I will do both, really. You're hilarious. All right, we'll read another chapter. And then I'll do the curls. Same time. Just sit here and be like, yeah, so no, that's not going to work out too well. All right, chapter 29, also Irene Adler's chapter. Venturing outside to search for Holmes, I scanned the courtyard, but he was nowhere in sight. Clarissa approached with a tray of champagne, and I gratefully accepted a glass. Sitting at a bench, I soon struck up a conversation with a couple from a neighboring farm. A pleasant-looking woman of middle-aged years, slim-built, with light brown hair and deep-set blue eyes, introduced herself as Rachel and her paramour as Gino. He was a hello, how are you? Sorry, I'm back. I was muted. He was a small, shifty-looking man with a handlebar mustache and dark, piercing eyes. I was about to leave when I noticed a lady in a black silk Georgette dress and a scarlet cloak approach. The lady sat down across from Rachel and Gino, nodding to them. "Good evening," she said, staring at Rachel with a pair of magnetic, deep-set brown eyes. "My name is Maria. I have come to read your palm. All I ask is for a little change. Not for me. All proceeds from this evening will be donated to the Ospedale degli Innocenti for the abandoned bambinos." It's a donation. Maria wore a black bandana and a rosary as a necklace. But this wasn't the only reason for my sudden interest. A young, pocket-sized version of Gabriella Anca sat before me, the same eyes, glasses, and facial features. Firmly clasping Rachel's hand in her own, Maria recited her rosary in Italian before continuing. "You have lost someone close to you recently?" "Yes," said Rachel. "My husband, Alfonso. He tragically died last year under mysterious circumstances. The coroner recorded an open verdict." "You have found a new love." Maria gestured to Gino, raising an eyebrow. "Not too tricky, Maria. The man is sitting beside her." "Yes, indeed." Rachel smiled at Gino. "Fortune has smiled down on me. I have found love for the second time." Rachel paused for a moment. "I have no wish to speak ill of the dead, but Alfonso was a very mean man. He only took me out when the shops were closed, whereas Gino has been more than generous." "Gino was your late husband's business partner and the best man at your wedding," said Maria. "Your husband is not happy. He will not rest until the perpetrator has been found and brought to justice." "What does he have to say?" Rachel asked suspiciously, a shocked expression on her face. "I want my wife," said Maria, suddenly speaking in a manly tone. The blood drained from Rachel's face. "You can tell my husband that I am not ready to come yet," she cried. Rachel stood, almost knocking the bench over before flouncing off into the night. Gino reached into his pocket, threw Maria a handful of change, and ran after the stricken Rachel. "Nobody wants to hear the truth. They cross my palm with silver and tell me they do, but most can't handle it." Maria stood up, smiling at me. Stump Mama's Mama. Mama House Gaming. And Stump Mama's Mama. So many mamas in my life. Sorry I'm late, but I'm here now. You're never late. You arrive as you need to. Over the years, I have learned never to question my gifts. They have been bestowed upon me by a higher order. At least the money is going to a good cause. Do I know you? I quizzed. Are you related to Gabriella Anca? You look very much like her. Yes, Gabriella is my sister. Maria replied. May I speak to you confidentially? Yes, of course. Let me introduce myself. My name is Irene Adler. Yes, I know who you are, Maria said. I saw your performance earlier this evening. You and the girl were naturally magnificent. Well, thank you, Maria. You're very kind. Do you live nearby? I don't remember seeing you before. Maria stared at me. I am the seventh daughter of a seventh daughter. People say I have the gift of prophecy. I detect pain in your eyes. May I? Please, go ahead, Maria. As you say, it's for a worthy cause. Endeavoring to enter into the spirit of the occasion, I took a sip of champagne. Maria turned my hand over. She rubbed my palm with the tips of her fingers, then grasped it tightly. I took in a sharp intake of breath, and then, just as suddenly, Maria released her grip, gazing intently at my palm. Many challenges have consumed your life, she said. You have suffered immeasurable heartache at the hands of men. You can say that again, I scoffed. Professor, welcome back. How are you? Good to see you. I hope you're well. A man pursues you. I see a conflict with fire and smoke. The Reaper waits at the end, but not for you, my dear. Maria smiled at me reassuringly. As for matters of the heart, love will manifest itself from an unexpected source. This man will travel over water in pursuit of the truth in this quest of yours, my dear. He is a man of no equal, supremely gifted and confident in his own sagacity. True soulmates are like sunrise and sunset. They live amongst us every day, yet we rarely see them. I stared at Maria curiously. Do you know who this man is? Welcome, everyone. I hope your holidays, if you celebrate, are wonderful like you. Mama House Gaming, you are so nice. Professor, I'm going to assume that you stream by the fact that you have TTV at the end. Mama House Gaming, can we get a shout out for Professor? I would love to see a clip. Just out of pure curiosity, if nothing else. And then, of course,
JT's Discount Pimp.
Alright, man, I'll leave the game up. Password, man.
And there you go. Something Discount Pimp. We have learned much this evening. And of course, I will not make my mod shout herself out. That is not acceptable. I do it. There she is. Okay. Now what? Oh my goodness. It's Rexter. Why is that not playing?
For the sub, these are 10 beans.
R3KST3R asked me, why Mr. the Bookfather so handsome? The age-old question. It's like they were blessed by the literary deities or something, between their perfectly tousled hair and that mesmerizing voice that sometimes trips over words charming right. Plus, their wisdom shines through adding a dash of charisma. And let's face it, anyone who can make reading entertaining is bound to have a certain allure.
You flatter me, Rexter. Good evening, sir. I appreciate the shout out. Unfortunately, the stream tonight was canceled due to too many sick players. Oh no. I hope they get better soon. Sick players is not a good thing. I concur. Stop it. You can't right now? Me neither. Apparently. It's great to see you all. You're too much. Don't forget, by the way, some of you didn't hear this. At the end of stream, I'm going to do a live rendition of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, since I won't be streaming the night before Christmas. I will do it tonight instead. All right. Irene Adler's having her palm read. Let's see what happens. She just asked if she knew, Maria, who this man was. His identity will soon become apparent to you, my dear. When the ball starts to roll, you must be ready. He waits by an open doorway, and all you need to do is walk through the doorway to meet him. You see this man as no woman has seen him before, and that unnerves him. You will conceive a child together, a son, born of great love on the 12th day of the first month at the stroke of 6 o'clock, under the sign of Capricorn, the same birth sign as his father, and his father before him. This child will possess many talents and make his mark in history. That is fate. Is the boy to be my only child? Maria shook her head. The Lord is mysterious, and we must await his intentions. I am merely a humble vessel. She smiled at my bemused expression. You doubt my words. I see you have already lost an infant. Tell me, Maria, will I ever see my child again? Maria sighed. When we have endured the unendurable, it is only through the dark night of the soul that we come to speak, to understand, and to see through the eyes of Christ. Your daughter lives inside you. Her soul shines as bright as the crimson on my cloak. You will meet again, for her memory can never be erased. I must take my leave of you now. Buona fortuna, mia cara. Maria stood up abruptly as if to go. Please, wait. I looked at her anxiously. I have something for you to cross your palm. Bending down to open my bag, I took out some change before I noticed Maria had disappeared into the night. I sighed. Just like that. Part of me felt relieved Maria had moved on to her next victim. The other part wondered how she could have known about Rosemary. I removed a compact from my bag and gazed at my reflection, reapplying my lipstick. If I were to give birth in 9 months, it would have to be by immaculate conception. Otherwise, where is he, my lover, the father of my unborn child? I giggled at the absurd notion. Just then, a tall man approached me. He looked vaguely familiar, and I assumed he was one of the casual farm laborers. The man removed his cap to reveal a bald head, pale skin, and a long, thin face with sideburns. His light blue eyes were covered by horn-rimmed glasses. Something about the way he presented himself made me feel uncomfortable. The man introduced himself as Ben Masterson, an artist from Melis, a town village just outside Somerset. He said he was staying in Fiesole during the summer months on a sabbatical to paint and meditate, laboring at the farm a few hours here and there to supplement his income. I breathed a sigh of relief. At least he was not another soothsayer. Ben told me how much he enjoyed my performance and asked if I would sign an autograph, handing me a black fountain pen and a commonplace book, which I happily signed. I noticed the signature had a slightly blurred look to it. Ben thanked me for the autograph and apologized about the pen, which he said needed a new nib, bidding me a good evening before rejoining the festivities. I stared after him for a few moments, remembering where I'd seen him before. He was one of the men who helped Javier take the piano out into the courtyard. Turning around, I noticed Javier by my side, congratulating me on my performance. We spoke about music and Ava's spectacular debut. The boy appeared a little intoxicated. He spoke to me in Italian, explaining how he desperately loved Ava in an agitated tone. But it was hopeless. She seemed oblivious to his ardent admiration. He didn't know what to do. I placed my hand soothingly on Javier's, attempting to console the love-stricken boy. I told him Ava had been distracted recently with rehearsals, but she spoke to me in confidence of her affection and deep admiration for him. I suggested he return home for an early night, explaining it would be far better to declare his feelings in the morning when he was sober and refreshed. I quizzed Javier on the flowers and the hair clip. He swore he knew nothing about either. Well, maybe I should, Javier jokingly replied, his mood brightening. He kissed me on the cheek before making his way back to the cottage. And that's the end of chapter 29. So, the parcel and flowers that she received earlier that day, who were they actually from? They're not from Sherlock. They're not from Javier. Could it be the mysterious person from their day in the market, or in town? Or someone else entirely? Little breadcrumbs were being given here. Very little breadcrumbs. All right. Before we move on to chapter 30, I say a stalker. That very well could be as well. That is definitely an option. It's time to do 15 curls. Mysterious indeed. All right. Let's curl it up. Love it. All right. We have an ad that's about to start, which is perfect timing. And then we'll get to the next chapter. I wonder why the dungeon didn't show up. That's odd. I hope it's not broken already. Thank you for the hydrate. I've been using my bench press every day. Man, it feels good. I'm up to 35 on each side, so 70 plus the bar. Which, for someone in my condition, is it's pretty good, weight category for me to be in. It's nothing. It's not like too heavy, but it's not too light either. So it shouldn't have too much of an impact on the ticker. The old ticker. Dungeon, yeah, so it's a new thing. It's a Tangia thing. And I thought I had set it up correctly. I'm actually looking at the settings page for it right now. Weird. Why is it not showing up? Let me try it. That's so weird. Do I not have it on this page? No, I really do. I do. I can see it. Huh. That's so bizarre. Looks like I'm gonna have to enlist the help of Super SB from the Broalition. They know how to set it up. And I really thought I'd got it right. I guess not. I hear it's delicious in there. Yeah. It absolutely is delicious. All right. We got our workout in. The ads are over. We've taken a drink break. Or at least I did. I can't say for you guys. That's up to you. But what I can say is chapter 30 is about to begin. And this one is the perspective of Sherlock Holmes himself. We're starting on page 189. Please click this link if you have not. Ice cream break? Ooh, that's a good idea. What kind of ice cream? I like to go to Culver's and create my own mixer. I get vanilla ice cream with hot caramel, little Dove pieces, banana, and cheesecake. And then they blend it all together. Oh, it is to die for. It is magnificent. Perfection. I only get a small, though. Anyway, completely sidetracked there. Chapter 30. After Ava's stunning performance, I decided to go for a walk and ponder over the events of the evening. When I returned, I found Miss Adler sitting at a bench with the Anka boy. They appeared engrossed in an intimate conversation, although I was too far away to make out what they were saying. Nevertheless, I continued to observe them for some time. Finally, I took one last look before turning on my heels and returning to the barn. Arriving back at the barn in a somber mood, I entered the drawing room, my eyes immediately drawn to the flowers. I removed the card, digesting the contents, and became incensed that Anka dared to send flowers to an allegedly married woman. Then, pouring a whiskey and soda, I entered the bedroom and removed a case from the drawer. A tiny hypodermic needle glittered in the moonlight. I hesitated for a moment, but without Watson there to counsel me, the temptation proved impossible to resist. Vanilla ice cream with hot peanut butter fudge and chocolate syrup, plus M&Ms and candied almonds and sprinkles. See, that's peanut butter and nuts. You wouldn't be sharing that one. That one is all yours. I won't even attempt to take a bite. Not even a sniff. But hey, if it makes you happy, knock yourself out. I injected myself with cocaine, the single weakness of my nature. My mood soon skewed into a fit of jealous rage and wild imaginings, feelings alien to me until now, brooding on the occasions Anka waved to Neen while working in the fields, their intimate conversations at the stables. I managed to convince myself that the two of them were lovers. I lit a cigarette, attempting to calm my nerves. Poor Sherlock. Calm myself, sorry. Sadly, whiskey, nicotine, and cocaine did little to alleviate the pain. The night air had grown exceptionally still and humid, almost suffocating. I rose and opened the window. I took off my jacket, waistcoat, and cravat, unfastening the top 2 buttons of my shirt in an attempt to cool myself down. Finally, I sat on the bed, reflecting on my somber mood. I dozed off, then awoke with a jolt, disturbed by the sound of a key turning in the latch. And that was a very quick chapter. A very disturbing quick chapter. We knew that Sherlock had his weakness, as was said. I didn't realize he actually had any with him, though. But how silly of him to think that they were lovers. This is where it gets interesting. It's all been interesting, but if this is what you're saying gets interesting, then, well, without further ado, Chapter 31, Irene Adler. After bidding Javier goodnight, I returned to the barn, stopping to speak to a group of children playing football on the lawn. Soccer. Zarias. Oh, that fish. Love it. Hello, Zarias, one of the 3 after-hours Broalition streamers. It's great to see you. Jealousy piques the stupidest assumptions. You're not wrong, Tacky. The cocaine has skewered his imagination. Yeah, that's for sure. That is for sure. I returned to find everything in darkness, save for a taper lamp shining through the bedroom window. Half expecting to find Holmes sitting on the patio, I was disappointed when there was no sign of him. I retired to my bedroom with a heavy heart. I changed into a pale blue silk. Now, I know it's not chemise. Is it? Gosh, that's another one of those freaking words with the... Yeah, Tacky, that one. Isn't it like... chemise? Chamise. Okay, that's... The English language is absolutely stupid. Chamise. Well, she had a blue silk one. It's a French word. But I'm speaking in English, so I'm saying that the English language sucks. Anywho, back to the interesting part. And a matching dressing gown with satin slippers. Then I untied my hair and brushed it, allowing it to fall loose upon my shoulders. Sitting on the bed, pessimistic thoughts flooded my brain. I had failed in my fight for Holmes's attention. As our camaraderie flourished, I'd been hoping for more. Whenever I thought I was getting close to him, the part of himself he held back closed down and shut me out. Entering the kitchen, I noticed a carafe of wine on the side and poured myself a drink. I sipped slowly from the glass, pondering the events of the evening. I had developed feelings for the celebrated detective, feelings I knew he would never reciprocate. Holmes would never be interested in someone like me, a woman of the world, albeit a world that was getting smaller every day. Turning around, I was startled to find Holmes standing in the doorway. The top 2 buttons of his shirt were unfastened, exposing his chest. Long, muscular arms rested on the doorframe. I was shocked by his disheveled appearance. His eyes were dilated as he looked at me with a dark, brooding intensity. His hair was swept back from his face, giving him a rugged, sultry appearance. His usual sallow cheeks flushed with color. The tension in the room had dissipated. I took in the faint scent of his cologne, overwhelmed by the power of his physicality. I felt vulnerable, scared, and hopelessly lost. "Ah, you have returned, I see." Holmes spoke in a deprecating tone, an air of sarcasm in his manner. "I was under the impression you had absconded for the evening with your lover, Javier Anker. I have to say he's an intriguing choice, although not the most quick-witted youth. But admittedly, he is comely, such a handsome young man to look at. I'll give him that. He's undoubtedly an ardent lover full of youthful vigor, I would fancy. Tell me, do you find him handsome, Miss Adler?" Although I was shocked by Holmes's expostulation, that's a mouthful, the ferocity of his anger surprised me. Observing his livid eyes, I'd never seen Holmes so riled. Suddenly I felt afraid, reminding myself that Holmes would never dream of raising a hand to me, not like Godfrey. "I have never professed to have a high aesthetic bar. I fail to see the point you're making, Mr. Holmes." "That is because I have not yet arrived at it." "Why, it beggars belief. Underestimate me at your peril, especially when I have unleashed my full powers. Do you really want to risk that?" "I have never underestimated you, Mr. Holmes." Holmes paced around the kitchen, hands behind his back, as though an advocate in a court of law. "Don't play me for a fool. Do you think I haven't noticed how the two of you talk, the way he looks at you? So tell me, when did this rigmarole begin, this fait accompli? By God, I ought to lay a whip upon that boar's shoulders and thrash the hide of him." A bladeful light shone on his imperious stare, cutting me down to size. The intensity of sound heightened, and I began to shake with humiliation and anger. Then I realized I needn't be afraid of Holmes. I knew he would never dream of hurting me physically. That would be abhorrent to his robust personal code of chivalry and high moral compass. His narrative, however, was a different matter. Reassured in that knowledge, I stood my ground, staring at him defiantly. "First of all, Mr. Holmes, I'm not a fan of rhetorical questions. nor was I aware that it was a crime to meet someone in public for a friendly discussion of a mutual love of horses and music. There's a difference between being friendly and making a public spectacle of yourself, madam. You were speaking to him in Italian, for God's sake. And that's a crime. I scoffed at his impertinence. My affairs are none of your concern, sir. I don't have to explain myself to you or anyone else. Do you think that I am incapable of making my own decisions because I am a woman? The matter is not open for discussion. May I remind you that while we remain in this village, to all intents and purposes, that you are the wife of a celebrated detective. You will behave like it. Ah, I said. You think that because I am your assumed wife, that entitles you to take the moral high ground. Are you out of your godforsaken mind? You have no evidence to substantiate your spurious claim. Javier is not my lover. He is of no interest to me in the way you so impudently imply. I threw up my hands in a despairing gesture, finding little relief in a gush of tears. Holmes smiled at me sardonically. Was that an embarrassed shudder of recognition, Miss Adler? Why does your moral outrage amuse me, I wonder? If it was not Javier Anca, then it must be someone else from the supper party who was privy to your ardent admiration. Tell me, was there anyone else this evening with the initial J? In a desperate attempt to gather my thoughts, I remained silent for a moment. Holmes stared at me, his face filled with exasperation. With all due respect, I'm talking to you, Miss Adler. Please tell me that I am heard. Yes, I heard you, but you're not telling me anything. I turned to face him. Without respect, Mr. Holmes, you are talking over me. You are raising your voice. I find your attitude offensive. I paused for several moments, astounded by his haughty arrogance. Picking up my wine glass, I swallowed the contents in one large gulp. That's what bothers you, isn't it? I sneered. The fact that I could have lain with Javier if I'd wanted to. Not that Javier could have lain with me. Why, this isn't about Javier, or any other man for that matter. I'm so disappointed in you. Who do you think you are? Holmes stared at me. He let out a long sigh of despair as his face slowly contorted into a grimace of sober contemplation. You are delusional. It's clear to see that you are intoxicated. Pray tell, how much wine have you consumed this evening? Not nearly enough, I scoffed. And that's rich coming from you. You are drunk yourself. From my experience, when a man's had a drink, that's when the truth comes out. He says what he thinks. What a cruel man you are. I thought I'd seen my fair share of such men in my lifetime. I must say that I find your answer rather impertinent, Miss Adler. Well, your accusations may come under the same heading, Mr. Holmes. I couldn't believe this was happening. I felt drained and demoralized, as though I was in a dreadful nightmare I would never wake from. In a moment of madness and pure frustration, I threw the glass at the wall, narrowly missing Holmes, who ducked when he saw it hurtling towards him. The glass hit the wall and shattered. I glared at him, my nostrils flaring. Oh, yes, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, as you so rightly deduce. There is someone from the supper party who I greatly admire. Why, I'm astounded that I've been able to conceal his identity for so long, especially from you, the all-seeing detective. Please allow me to give you a clue, as you're clearly in need of one. His name does not begin with the letter J, although he is undoubtedly a conundrum to me. Holmes stood motionless. You know, all the people at the supper party are under the misapprehension that I'm married to you, the celebrated detective Sherlock Holmes. Your egotism, your breathtaking level of arrogance, your condescending manner. I'm repelled by it, by all of it. Why, I believe your coldness to be nothing more than a calculated, unwavering self-correction. With the brooding of his deep-set and inscrutable eyes, Holmes laughed. You mean I am incapable of connecting with you? I am immune from sentiment, and you are well aware, and am hardly the gay Lothario one would expect. We're different people, you and I. You're not incorrect, I scoffed. I think, Mr. Holmes, you are more than capable of liking people as long as it's on your terms. You remove feelings from your mind because you believe in doing so you no longer have to deal with emotions. You turn your back on spontaneity, burying your intuition. However, there's a massive consequence to that action, because when you lose your intuition, you lose your strongest function. I paused for a moment. The real value of having intuition, of course, is knowing how to use it. I don't appreciate your directness. I hope I'm making myself clear. On the contrary, you're making yourself very unclear. You are the living definition of a man who lives in a world where he considers love and affection to be trite and frivolous. With all your cleverness, you have no understanding at all about love, the frailty of the human heart. What difference does it make? What's it to you anyway if I sleep with the whole village, especially all men with the initials J? I'm surprised you haven't carried out a census. I paused for a moment. You don't get it, do you? God damn it, do I have to spell it out for you? I like you quite a lot. In fact, and considering the issues you clearly have, your high-handedness, your lack of tact, telling you was not easy for me. Of course, you are far too self-absorbed and emotionally detached to notice. You're the most infuriating man I've ever had the misfortune to come across. Why, you are Edward Fairfax Rochester without the charisma and charm. I paused for a moment, gazing directly into his eyes. I do have one question, though. I am breathless with anticipation. What I shudder to ask is your question. He asked, a wary expression on his face. What did Victoria do to burn you to make you this way? Your meticulous, self-directed journey must get very lonely and somewhat taxing. Damn you, and all your logic. I wish to retire to my bedroom now. This toxic conversation is crushing my soul. Holmes had by no means relaxed his rigid attitude, but instead lapsed into a gloomy silence. I poured myself another glass of wine and flounced past him, retiring to my bedroom. Blind with fury, I slammed the door shut with such force it almost came off its hinges. I lay down on the bed, crying with frustration and rage. I made up my mind that I would go home in the morning. I would prefer to sleep on a park bench rather than spend another night under the same roof as Sherlock Holmes. Sitting up, I sipped the wine in an attempt to calm myself when I heard the sound of footsteps approaching. Then, a knocking on my bedroom door. I remained silent, hoping he would go away. But he rapped again, this time more urgently. Please go away. I don't want to talk to you. My God, is this night ever going to end? Holmes opened the door and walked straight towards me, sinking into the chair beside the bed and placing a glass of water on the table. He clasped his hands together, his eyes focused on the ceiling. I am so sorry, Miss Adler. My behavior this evening has been utterly atrocious. I offer you my most heartfelt apologies. I had no idea you would be so affected. I turned to him. Well, here we are again. You upsetting me, then finding yourself having to apologize. Perhaps you need to take a closer look at yourself. And as for your apology, it's as pathetic as you are, Mr. Holmes. I concede that you have every right to feel angry. I have upset you very deeply, which is unforgivable, even if it was unintended. I freely admit that I drank far too much whiskey and took a little cocaine, of which I am not proud. However, given what happened to your late husband, this is quite unacceptable. Therefore, if you agree, I think we should head back to London tomorrow. I can then place you in the safe hands of Inspector Lestrade and my brother Mycroft. Whatever your feelings may be towards me, your safety and well-being will always be of paramount importance. He stood and walked towards the door, then turned to face me. Your description of me being emotionally detached and self-absorbed is an accurate assessment. It's a harsh truth, but a truth nevertheless. I'm fundamentally a cold, unfeeling person. There's a reason I'm alone in the world. He flashed me a dry smile. I scoffed. You know something? I have no regrets. My life has been one unmitigated disaster after another, constantly living through a veil of tears. But then you come along and take it to a whole new level. You know, despite it all, during our intimate conversation, when I bared my soul to you, there were moments of breathtaking tenderness and joy. Yet despite all that, you still expect me to tell you everything, while at the same time you say nothing at all. Am I really to be the narrator of your silence? Walk away from me, by all means, but don't pretend for one moment that you don't have feelings for me. I know beneath that icy exterior lies a complex and profoundly feeling man, whom I believe likes me too. Perhaps you should allow people to see that occasionally. Holmes stared at me incredulously. Like you? If it were only that simple. I'm more than like you. I can't stop thinking of you. By God, Neen, I love you. I have always loved you. I'm barely controlling my feelings, and you were always good enough. He turned towards the door. I will take my leave of you now, for I have nothing further to say on the matter. I pulled myself up from the bed, all my strength and bravado evaporating at that precise moment. Wait! I cried. Mr. Holmes, please wait before you go. There's something of great importance that I need you to do for me. Name it. I would very much like you to repeat what you said. If it is as I thought, then I must insist you kiss me without any delay. Holmes walked towards me, his eyes fixed on mine. With a profound tenderness, he cradled my face, softly brushing my lips with his, before we rapturously fell into each other's arms. I wasn't sure if this is what you wanted. Oh, it's what I wanted, Mr. Holmes. He took me in his arms, kissing me passionately. I've dreamed of doing this since the moment I first laid eyes on you. And do I fulfill your expectations? Precisely so, he whispered, pulling me to him. We kissed again as though it was the most natural thing in the world, holding each other tightly. I was moved to tears by his declaration of love. The anguish I had just felt a few moments ago now erased from my mind. I spoke softly to Holmes, whispering in his ear. So, you think that I'm the most exceptional woman you have ever met? Why, that's quite a compliment coming from you, Mr. Holmes. Yes, you are indeed exceptional. The only thing that stops you from being the most perfect is your obstinacy. I must say that's not your most endearing feature. Well, I suppose a half compliment is better than none at all. I scoffed. You need to work on your flattery. Promise me to never become a therapist. There's no such thing as a bad compliment. All right, if you say so. Tell me, have you been here with Victoria? It's been a while, he said. There have been other women in my past, as you are aware, but never like this. I have no interest in pursuing a personal relationship for the sake of it. My brain needs to be mentally stimulated before I could consider it, and that rarely happens. Except, of course, when I am with you. Nice recovery, Mr. Holmes, I said, laughing. Why, that could be the finest compliment a man could ever bestow upon a woman. There may be hope for you yet. Sitting down on the bed, I stared at him, my heart beating wildly. Holmes sat beside me, taking my hand in his. I don't think you want to become involved with a man like me. Not really. You come from a different, sweeter, purer world than me. Let me be the judge of that, although I do have it on excellent authority that you are a highly complex man. I gestured towards the bed. He shook his head, a concerned look on his face. We don't have to rush into anything. As I have said, this is not about the physical for me. He paused for a moment, gazing into my eyes. Perhaps we can return to being friends? We can leave it at that if you want. I'm not a steady man, and you deserve to be loved wholeheartedly. I have not been put on this earth to be your friend, Sherlock. Friends don't feel for each other the way I feel about you. Your deduction is as accurate as ever. You certainly have potential to make an admirable detective. You should consider taking it up professionally. I am naturally observant, as you have commented. You do realize that he who hesitates is lost? You had my attention from our first encounter at La Scala. The moment you appeared on stage, I was lost. You had me from Wagner. I sighed, stroking his face. You have evoked a passion in me that I have never felt before. So why don't we take the next step? Holmes stared at me in disbelief. Are you quite sure? Yes. Is that a problem for you? No. I slowly began to unbutton his shirt. I only ask one thing of you. And what is that? Please don't do this unless you mean it. Oh, I mean it, he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. I gently placed my hand on his thigh. He flinched at my touch and moved away from me. Holmes looked into my eyes in the thoughtful manner I had become familiar with and lowered his head. That look said it all. Overcome with emotion and disappointment, I bit my top lip to stop myself from crying. I'm sorry, I cannot do this, said Holmes. Forgive me, but you are my client, for God's sake. I promised your father I would protect you. Smiling, I tried holding back the tears. We are way beyond regrets, and well past the age of consent. I don't care if this is right or wrong. I only know that I am drowning here. I don't think I can give you what you need. I'm not even sure if I want a relationship, he said. I gasped, shocked by the callousness of his words, tears stinging my eyes. I can take rejection. That's nothing new to me. But you're right. This is never going to work. I began to laugh hysterically. Oh, my God. What is wrong with me? Why can't I be with someone normal for once? How on earth can I expect to embark on a personal relationship with a man who professes his love for me, cannot bear the thought of me being with anyone else, yet recoils at my touch? What do you want from me, Sherlock? Holmes looked up at me, shaking his head. No, you are quite wrong. Please, hear me out. He took my hand and entwined my fingers with his. I realize that being with me is never going to be easy. But I want you to know that, although I didn't want to, and I've tried to fight it with every fiber of my being, I love you ardently. I cannot express the magnitude of my feelings for you. I want to change the concept of your world until you no longer feel any pain, until I have erased every negative thought and memory. We are both in uncharted territory, but neither of us is ever going to settle for normal, for the mundane. He stared at me with burning intensity before continuing. But what I really want to do is to lay with you. You have no idea how much I want to do that. My eyes glistened with tears. Well, if you're sure. I know how prickly you are about personal boundaries. Holmes gently stroked my face with his fingertips. Pray, tell me one thing. Who the hell is Edward Fairfax Rochester? I chuckled. All you need to know, my love, is that when we won the heroine in the end, we won the heroine in the end. I paused for a moment. Sherlock, would you be so kind as to turn down the lamp? Yes, of course. But why? He asked. Because if we leave it on, it will advocate a level of confidence I don't have. I was beginning to feel a little apprehensive. The last time I was touched by a man was over 2 years ago when Godfrey violated me. I still carried a scar under my left breast from that encounter. As though somehow aware of my thoughts, Holmes dimmed the taper lamp, turning it down so low that there was scarcely any light at all. Then, taking me into his arms, he pulled me closer, tracing every area of my body with his fingers. I unbuttoned his shirt, revealing a fit, moderately haired torso, and ran my hands up and down his taut stomach, stroking his chest and muscular arms. Holmes caressed the nape of my neck with his fingertips. His touch sent a shiver down my spine as he stroked the fine, silky hair on my arms, trailing downwards to my breasts. His caress became more urgent, extending over my belly. I could feel his heart beating wildly, as though it would burst through his chest. We undressed until we were lying beside each other naked. His mouth moved downwards, and my breathing became shallow. Nin, are you sure? He whispered. I don't want our first time together to make you uncomfortable. Tell me to stop any time, and you have my word that I will. I don't want you to stop. I surrendered into his arms for a melting kiss. We made love slowly and tenderly until the light from the taper lamp flickered and died. He stirred my senses in a way I never thought possible, and we held on to each other long after the point of our sweet surrender. Later that evening, we lay under the sheets, our bodies entwined, when he said, When I was a young boy, my mother told me that those who want never got. But she was wrong. You have bestowed something in me I never knew I wanted, Nin. We lay in bed whispering to each other softly until the sun came up. Much to Holmes's amusement, I did everything I could to engage him in conversation, literally fighting to keep my eyes open. I wanted to be held in his arms forever. Eventually, my lids became so heavy, I finally fell into a deep sleep. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 31. Absolutely fantastic chapter. Torments and jealousy and rage turned into the truth and bliss. Well done. Sometimes it's difficult to tell when you've never read something in advance just how angry or upset or enraged someone might be as a character. So I hope I was able to portray enough of that between the two of them when they were, first going at each other. And then in contrast, when everything was calm and, happy. Hopefully I was able to give enough of the difference between the two. That is always my goal. But yes, absolutely fantastic chapter. Well done. Well done indeed. Oh my gosh, Star Mama's mama, what are you doing? Thank you for the 500 bits. You didn't have to do that. My goodness. Thank you for doing that. That was really kind of you. You should start streaming so we can shout you out. Kay, I hope you have a good, smooth, restful sleep. It's a pleasure to see you as always. Ooh. That was a good neck crack. All right. This next chapter isn't too long, and I don't really care how late we go. So we're going to read chapter 32, and then I'm going to end the night with 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And then we'll find someone to raid. So, ladies and gentlemen, the final chapter for this evening, chapter 32, which is from Sherlock Holmes' perspective. I emerged from the bathroom early the following day, showered, dressed, and prepared for the day ahead. I glanced over at Neen. She was sleeping soundly. She stirred for a moment, half opened her lids and smiled at me before turning over and drifting back to sleep. I left the bedroom, shut the door quietly behind me, and placed a letter on the kitchen table before making my way to the farmhouse. Finding the front door ajar, I walked into the kitchen, relieved to find Ludo Espirito sitting alone at the kitchen table. He nodded to me, gesturing for me to sit down as he poured coffee into a mug. I gratefully accepted the cup of hot, steaming liquid, sipping from it slowly. I explained to Ludo how someone had sent flowers under mysterious circumstances. I asked if there had been anyone else at the supper party with the initials J. He appeared deep in thought for a moment before shaking his head. Javier is not the culprit. He is a fine, staunch lad. Nothing would induce him to disrespect either you or Neen. Ludo scratched his head. I cannot think of anyone else with that initial. I stared at him gravely. My dear fellow, I have a favor to ask. I need you to accompany me to the village. I have a few matters to attend to, and I wish to speak to you in confidence of a delicate matter. I will get my jacket and cap. The Brahmin is outside. I will drive. I sat alongside Ludo as we set off down to the village, confiding with him my fledgling romance with Neen. He stared at me incredulously. You and Neen? He whistled. Well, it's about time. The two of you have been performing this dance for a while. She is a remarkable woman, I said. It's a rare thing indeed for beauty and virtue to go hand in hand. Ludo glanced over at me. Trust me, from a man who has been in love for many years, I recognize that look, my friend. You are in love with this woman, and you, the great detective, cannot see it. Oh, I can see it. I am completely out of my depth. You are only human, my friend. So I'm discovering. Let me tell you, said Ludo. You cannot control how you feel about someone, but you can finish a puzzle on stream. Just kidding. Good job with the puzzle. Well done. Festive Linzer cookies. Excellent. Nailed it. You cannot control how you feel about someone, but you can control how you deal with those feelings. The more you suppress them, the unhappier you will become. Now, my friend, what you must do is woo this woman and show her what she means to you. Of course, a romantic gesture is always good. Compliment her. Women love spontaneity. But for God's sake, take her out somewhere, away from the barn. That's not the most romantic of settings, eh? I don't know, I said. It's had its moments. When we arrived at the village, Ludo tethered the horses before walking over to the florist. Madame Luna, the proprietor, rushed over to greet us. She was a small, dark-haired woman with expressive and well-defined brows. Good morning, gentlemen. How may I help you? She asked. Introducing myself, I questioned Madame Luna about the flowers. Oh, I am certain I can find the answer to your questions by checking our sales book. Madame Luna looked through her ledger. Why, this is the entry right here, she said. Yes, indeed. I can see we made 2 deliveries yesterday. But unfortunately, no name is registered against the second delivery. Can you describe the person who ordered the flowers? I asked. My daughter, Isabella, dealt with this particular order, sir. I shall go fetch her. Madame Luna returned after a few minutes with a nervous young girl with large brown eyes and long hair worn in silver fillets. Fillets? Fillets of fish. It's silver. Had some silver. Go on, Isabella, said Madame Luna. Tell the gentleman what you told me. Isabella looked at me anxiously. The man came into the shop before noon on Friday. First, he purchased a basket of spring flowers. Then he wrote out a card to go inside the basket. As we were already making a delivery to Lisol, I offered him a small discount. Can you describe this man? I asked. He was of slim build with blue eyes. I remember his eyes were quite striking. He was sallow-skinned, clean-shaven, but he didn't have much to say for himself. He simply paid for the flowers and left. I'm sure I have seen him somewhere in the village, but I cannot remember where or when. Why, have I done something wrong? She asked, tears welling in her eyes. Thank you, Isabella, I said. Quite the contrary. You have been of great assistance to me. Did this man indicate where he had come from or where he might be staying? Isabella shook her head. No, but some of the local farmers take in lodgers at this time of year. Thanking Isabella, I turned my attention to her mother. Your daughter's description is quite detailed for one of such tender years. This is a tranquil place, Mr. Holmes, and fresh faces would likely cause comment. After a brief discussion with Ludo, I called into the confectioner's next door before returning to the florist's, where I selected a bouquet of red roses and handed Madame Luna a box of candies. For your daughter, I said, as a thank you. I apologize if I have upset her in any way. I appear to have a habit of reducing young women to tears. Madame Luna smiled at me, pointing to the flowers she just wrapped. Are these another apology? Something like that, I said, bowing to Madame Luna before leaving the shop. Well, that's an admirable start, my friend. Perfecto. Ludo laughed at my bemused expression. Our next shop was the telegraph office. I sent a wire to Mycroft. There were no incoming telegrams from me that day. We called into Ricardo's for a cold beer before embarking on our journey back to Lisol. Well, you have the flowers. All you need now is a nice restaurant with a certain ambiance. Ludo chuckled. Do not look so worried, my friend. You are taking this romance business far too seriously. My late mother's advice, God bless her soul, was to never worry about your heart until it stops beating. Embarking on a personal relationship with a young lady is really quite simple. All you can do is ask the question, and she can say yes or no. The outcome, a 2-in-1 chance of being in your favor. Ludo stopped the brougham and pointed to an impressive white stone building. Welcome to Othello's, he said. The finest restaurant in the area. To be honest, it's the only decent restaurant in the area. Sophisticated, elegant, yet at the same time relaxing. It comes with an excellent reputation for the quality of the food and the stunning views. They even have a stringed quartet. What more could you want? Jumping down from the brougham, I entered the restaurante, which was charming and rustic. The restaurante's rear was an enclosed courtyard filled with summer flowers, outdoor seating and tables with crisp white tablecloths, underneath glass canopies reflecting the sunlight. Engaging in a brief conversation with the head waiter, I made dinner reservation for later that evening, before continuing to Lisol. And that was a nice little chapter 32. Well, I must say, tonight's read has been one of intrigue, I've quite enjoyed myself. KD, I must say once again how much I appreciate you letting me read your book. I'm always amazed at what I find when I search online and ask for books to read, after I explain what I do, of course. I'm always worried people are going to think I'm some sort of scam artist, or that I'm trying to pull one over on them, or it's somehow not real. I buy my own copy. I publish either the book or the author itself, depending on what pages I can get access to. We talk about the book. It's like there's really no downside here, other than me butchering words. Of course, I can never guarantee sales. I just guarantee a sale for myself, because I love having paperback copies. I don't think I'll ever jump to the Kindle side of things, the ebook. I love technology, don't get me wrong, but there's something about holding the book in your hand, turning the page, just does it for me. Danny Lynn, Lit was right. I absolutely do enjoy these streams. Oh, thank you, Danny. You're very kind. Stop Mama's Mama, I also prefer a real book. You are very welcome. This book is my debut novel, and it has so far garnered 6 literary awards. And I'm not shocked at all. It's kind of easy to see why. I'm so proud of what you've accomplished, KD. I've tried to write books. I'm not very good at it. But I did it because I wanted to. It made me happy, and it kind of, checked something off of my list of things I wanted to do in my life. I was only gonna write 1, but then I did 8. But at the end of the day, when you've got a gift, you just got to go for it. And you really do. You really do. It's fantastic. And Danny Lynn, thank you again for saying what you said. I appreciate that. I really do. Do you stream? I don't remember. I am thoroughly enjoying your wonderful narrative. Thank you. I do try. Voice acting and book narration is important to me. I put what I can into it. Now, again, there's a difference between having a script and kind of going over that script multiple times versus reading something for the first time. I can obviously do a better job if I've read through something multiple times and I'm really getting into the nuances of it. So if I ever lack the luster or the effect when I'm reading live, it's just because I may have misinterpreted something, but I do my best. I do my best. Sometimes, but nowhere near as calming and comforting as your streams. Well, that's okay. Not every stream needs to be comforting and calming. But let's do a shout out, because I'm curious what clip we might see. You're absolutely welcome. Yes, drum roll indeed. Okay, we have an ad that's about to start, so I'm going to snooze it. I love a physical book, something you can hold in your hand. Yes, absolutely. You're sorry for that? It's okay. It's okay. So, Danny, I read on stream. Very seldomly I will play a game if I'm in between books, something like that. But for the most part, we're reading books here. As you can see above my head, we have a online community jigsaw puzzle that anyone can get involved with. And then I do over here on the corner, you can see squats, curls, hammers, and push-ups. I do some workout type things to help stay in shape a little bit when people gift subs or subscribe, or like Gemma over here, who just popped up back into chat, are very, very generous with their bits. I will do workouts in return for those to say thank you. After Hours Broalition, what's up? Atkin Bro, is this Super or Rhino? I can't tell. Zarias was already in here, so it's got to be one of you. I love my tablet because it's very mobile. That is true. That is the bonus of having a Kindle or something like that. Pretty much always Rhino. Haha. And Zarias is still here. Fantastic. But you do love a solid book? Fantastic. Me too. Obviously. Okay. I'm going to switch over our tunes. And then I'm going to read 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Now, obviously, it's not technically the night before Christmas, but it's close. And I'm not streaming Christmas Eve. I will be streaming the day after Christmas on the 26th, because that is a Thursday. And we'll get back into our book, just like we normally would. But before I read this and then find someone to raid, I just want to quickly say, it's been a year. It really has. The holidays for me are very different this year compared to previous. And I couldn't be more happy. I really couldn't. No matter what you're going through, I hope each and every one of you can take, even if it's just a moment, take a little bit of time for yourself and just sit and breathe and think about all the amazing things that are in your life. Ignore the crud. The crud will always be there. It may look different day to day. It may feel different. Might even sound different. But it's always going to be there, so just ignore it for a moment. Just take a minute. Enjoy your holiday season. Whatever that looks like. Just enjoy it. And now, Christmas. "'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there rose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave the luster of midday of objects below. When, what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. more rapid than eagles, his coursers they came. And he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now, Dasher, now, Dancer, now, Prancer and Vixen. On, Comet, on, Cupid, on, Donder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves before the Wilk hurricane fly. When they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys was flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled. His dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke had encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger at the side of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprung to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Oh no, the ads. Darn it. I had snoozed them, but obviously not quickly enough. Or not for long enough. So there you go. 'Twas the night before Christmas. It's a lovely little poem. Makes me happy. Aw, Aranel, thank you. You didn't have to do that. Haven't heard that in years, thank you. It was my pleasure.
More!
More. I'm sorry, I cannot give you more. But what I can do is find a wonderful place to raid. Someone who will love you and take care of you in my absence. 9 out of 10, thank you. I never expect a 10 out of 10 because perfection is a goal that no one can reach. You're very kind. And thank you for the bits. That was extremely generous of you. Okay. Let's take a look here, shall we? I know who we're going to raid. Some friends of mine are playing EverQuest right now. It's a very old game, but it's a fun little game for people that are Gemma. Gemma, you already gave earlier. My gosh. Thank you for being too generous again. I'm heading another reading stream. Catch you later, Bookfather. Thank you, Aranel. I haven't heard EverQuest in a long time. I know. To all, a very happy holiday, and please take care of yourselves and each other. That's my line. But yes, Mama House Gaming, you are absolutely right. Gemma, you didn't have to do that. Especially again. I'm going to give shout outs again to Aranel and to Gemma. Oops, not Gem. Jeez. Helps if I can type. Ooh, DBD. I haven't watched someone play DBD for ages. Y'all are too generous. You really are. Christmas hugs to everyone. May your holidays be wonderful. Likewise. Likewise. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas. I'll be around. I'm just obviously not going to be streaming until after Christmas, but I will be here on Thursday. Absolutely. Okay, let's get this raid going before something else crazy happens. Feel free to copy that message if you don't mind. We're going to go say hi to my friends. Here There Be Monsters. Like I said, playing EverQuest right now. But they're just good people to hang out with. That's their main thing. But as Mama House Gaming, my wonderful mod, has already said, please, especially with the holidays, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have a wonderful night.